Okay. Looks like we're live in the community, Max. Okay. Brothers, welcome today to today's conversation. We have a special guest with us here today inside the Porn to Purpose community. We've got one of our senior community members, one of our Liberation Boot Camp graduates, a brother who's shown up and served here inside of our community tremendously, a brother that's uh, highly loved and appreciated here inside the Porn to Purpose community. We have with us the good, noble brother, Max Warren. Max, it's really good to have you here today, brother. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, bro. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, wonderful, brother. So Max, we decided to set up this conversation here today.
Mhm.
We are live here inside the Porn to Purpose community, and just the intention here today is talk a little bit about your journey in relationship to pornography, uh, your journey as you shifted that relationship with pornography, and
Mhm.
your time inside the Porn to Purpose community and the Liberation um, boot camp. So to begin, brother, why don't we just begin with maybe a brief introduction, a little bit about who you are and where you're coming from and what's brought you to the Porn to Purpose community.
Yeah, bro. That all sounds like a good place to start. For me, the real driver was, um, you know, started with Mankind Project. I did an initiation weekend with them, learned a lot, and got plugged into what it meant to sit in circles with other men, and then got involved with Reclaim Your Inner Throne. And when Ivan did the beta for Reclaim, I was there that first round, and it was incredible, and that was on 90-day online initiation. And through the whole process, especially when we were digging into the magician, um, there inside of Inner Throne, there's this emphasis on um, Gandalf's fight with the Balrog as sort of an archetypal thing when it comes to addiction. And for me, that demon or that big monstrous thing was always pornography, and having my neck on a swivel in public, and having a particular, I guess a good way to phrase it is like porn brain. You're always trying to get a visual fix. You're always trying to get an emotional fix. You're always trying to get a dopamine hit. And it was completely incongruent, this deep-seated behavior and this way of approaching sexuality just didn't jive with who I wanted to become. I didn't want to be that guy. um and it wasn't like being, I want to be really clear, it's not like a prude thing or a anti-sex thing. It's, this isn't the way that I want to approach things. And I was educated and schooled that the way that sexuality worked was, Penthouse and Electric Blue and Playboy TV and porn, when you could rent a VHS tape and watch porn, sitting in my basement of my buddy's house in high school, watching Debbie Does Dallas. And like, this is what sex is. This is what sexuality is. So being schooled and educated and steeped in that, um, and then coming out of it, the biggest thing for me is I really want to keep growing, and this is a ceiling. Like, this is a real limiter. And I also got sick of feeling like, how do I have a leg to stand on to advise a man in his life or his business, or support him in a real authentic way, when I've got these skeletons in my closet, or I've got my own dirty little secret? And it's kind of a given in the community. We talk about this a lot. When you want to lead, this thing is there in the way of really being the best version of yourself. And also it it's the just that feeling of being fake, being, I want to go heavy on profanity because I don't know where this is going to land, but I'll put the emphasis on it, being a freaking hypocrite, you know what I'm saying? And trying to say that you're spiritual and you meditate and you're trying to be this evolved human being, or this guy that's staying away from toxic masculinity, dude. And pornography is really an outgrowth of a very immature attitude about sexuality and women, that to me was like my adolescent grabbing the wheel and driving the bus around sex. And I wanted more for myself. And having invested the time in personal development when I had looked at the year before you and I talked. I had looked at this other coaching program, and I was like, I don't think so. Something about it, nothing against those folks. I just wasn't ready. And knowing the direction I wanted, knowing the level of authenticity that I wanted, and not wanting to be this two people living this double life, which was exhausting. That was the biggest thing for me, is when I got in the program and was in boot camp, I was just freaking tired. I was tired of living a double life. I was tired of lying. I was tired of even, nibbling around the edges, like we talk about it, where, well, all the justification of, well, it's not really porn. It's just a chick doing yoga. Dude, it's self-core porn, man. You could tell yourself what you want, but, or my favorite thing, the mental justification for a while was, it's not really that big of a deal for me to read erotic stories. It's like, yeah, actually, it's the same damn thing. It's like, it's like, do you like your cocaine in a line, or do you prefer to cook it in a spoon and stick it in a needle? Because it's the same drug, bro. You can, so the semantics game and the justification, and I wanted to be this very open-minded person, and very, and I think I tried to bullshit myself and say, well, it's not really affecting me that much. And it was. And the funny thing is that it became obvious to me once I got into the boot camp, especially the first listen through your brain on porn. I will never forget listening to that audio and just sitting there and again going, oh shit. I'd back it up, I'd listen again, and I'm like, I really didn't know what I didn't know, even though I had an impetus to get involved in the program. And it was clear from our first conversation, I'm like, this is the guy, this is the program, this is the time. I need to jump on this. And I was ready. I had done a lot of legwork, and I had been frustrated and feeling like I was hiding a lot of pain and a lot of things that I didn't feel comfortable to deal with. If I go back and look at my adolescence, bro, growing up in a very religious family, in a very religious household, death metal and pornography and alcohol were my dirty secrets, all hidden in my bedroom, out of sight, out of mind, and so that double life started for me back then. But I was in a lot of pain and a lot of frustration as a kid, trying to live up to the expectations of my parents, trying to feel like I fit in and feeling like I didn't. And that pain all got pushed into, mom and dad are at work on a Saturday, break out the whiskey and look at pornography, and nobody's there to stop me. And so that became a habit of, that was a way to hide from the reality that I felt like I didn't have what it takes in the real world. So I'll do my best to fake it. Then I'm going to go kind of into this other mode of managing my pain and the incongruity inside of me through porn and alcohol. Those were the kind of my methods to deal with it.
Mm. Wow, brother. Thanks so much for sharing, brother. Thanks so much for sharing from your journey.
Yeah.
Max, as you've gone through this process, do you recall, Max, when did you actually join us in the boot camp? What was that? Over a year ago, correct?
Yeah, it's probably been over 18 months now.
Yeah,
because we were talking at the time we were in Dallas, and my mother-in-law hadn't passed away yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's sad, but that's my gauge right now, just because of the geography. But yeah, bro, it's probably about 18 months or more.
Okay, so 18 months. So Max, what would you say has shifted? What are some of the major changes and things that you've seen through your journey and in your time here with us? What have you learned about yourself?
A willingness just to come to my wife and tell her what's going on is the very first thing, of trusting her with me, with my vulnerabilities, with my triggers, with my stress, building that comfort level together, talking about what's going on for me, learning to explain to her that I'm if I'm wrapped around the axle with this stuff, it has nothing to do with you and I. This is something that I brought into the relationship. But being willing to be honest and open about it, super, super freeing, because I'm no longer trying to hide it. So owning it is the first thing. Being authentic. I've actually shocked a few guys sometimes because people will ask questions about, what have you accomplished in the last year? And I start talking about, well, I got to 90 days porn free, had a relapse, then I got another 90 days. And when I start talking about it, it's like, bro, I was just trying to ask if you made more money this year. Like, I didn't realize you were going to go there. And they're not comfortable talking about that, and some people have got, and I'm not anti-sex. Every guy is in his own journey with his own sexuality about how he handles it and the degree to which he feels like it's healthy sexual self-expression. Let me put it that way. And when we were doing the work, the vision work in Noble Counsel, that idea became a vision statement for me of what does it look like for me to have healthy sexual self-expression, as opposed to an adolescent or a young kid running the show who's enamored with the babysitter, who, my mom, I don't know where she found the babysitter she found from the time I was 11 until the time I was 14, but they were like the most beautiful women on the planet. And she would bring these girls home and be like, I have to work this weekend, but she's going to watch you. And that was the beginning of all that sort of, but being willing to recognize and have objectivity when I'm triggered. So there's the authenticity with D. There's recognizing the trigger of, oh, this is just rolling tape. This is coming from, this is because I'm in pain or I'm afraid or I'm anxious or something, and I'm trying to find a way to deal with that. And I'm going back to a way that I used to address it. So there's a lot of objectivity. Also, the very idea of formulating what does healthy sexual self-expression look like, right? That never existed before the work that I've done in the program. Knowing when to just go to bed, like I am tired, I am vulnerable, or there was a lot of shame around, I'm not putting porn blocker on my phone. I'm not putting porn blocker on my laptop. I'll figure this out, right? And to me, if you have a problem, you would not be, the same logic does not apply to, it's okay, I'm struggling with alcoholism, but you know what? I'm going to put a bottle of whiskey under the cabinet. I'm sure it'll be fine there. And every time you walk by it, you're thinking about it. And if you're at a point where there's a measure of, there's like an intensity, like a constant infatuation with this idea of going back to the well or scratching the itch, you probably want to put stuff out of reach till you as an individual, and for me that was true, of being willing to take whatever steps I needed to protect myself, to recognize what vulnerability looked like. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I had a setback today, I lost a client today, I had a fight with Delin, I misunderstood something, I lost my temper. If that shit's going on, stay off the phone. Scrolling at 1 o'clock at night is probably stupid. If you see something pop up on the screen that looks like a bikini, a thong, a scantily clad woman, just avoid it. Don't aggravate the situation. And so some of it was sort of the things that I would describe as common sense, bro, and a willingness to protect myself. There was not, I wasn't blocking and tackling for myself. That was not happening. I would put myself in situations where something simple bounced my eyes. Being in a public place and a girl is dressed scantily. The world is full of scantily dressed women. That isn't going to change anytime soon. And what are we in March? Oh yeah, April, May's coming, right? And guys, it's a real world thing of being challenged with what's in your visual field and learning that, we talk about the beard test, which I love, reminding myself I'm not a 16-year-old walking in the mall, right? Because the brain wants to flip that switch and I got to go like this. And it's like, so I go, dude, you're 55, you have gray in your beard, relax, you got this, right? Encouraging myself. So there are ingrained habits. There's a lack of objectivity at the beginning. There's a lack of vision at the beginning that it can be different. There's a unwillingness to own it, to own it. And the other thing too that I'm still working with is offering myself acceptance, offering my addict unconditional love, and being willing to sit with me and offer myself what I need. This is one thing, bro, that I definitely want to get across in this interview. Porn is not about sex. It's not. And the thing that I did is I bullshitted myself for a long time that porn was about sex. Porn was about pain management. Porn was about my feeling of ineptitude. I couldn't navigate my woman. I couldn't navigate initiating sex. I couldn't navigate or even think of the fact that as I'm aging, even with longevity, even being healthy, sex won't always be the focus of our relationship. So what does a relationship look like that has is healthy and well-rounded? What does a friendship look like? How do I develop a romantic friendship? It going through the program pushed me into places that I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to deal with it. I had sort of like the closet was shut, the door was barred, there was a chair under the door. I'm not going in there. And getting into the program helped me. When we started in the boot camp, all the written work at the very beginning with the steps, the chair comes off the door, you unlock the padlock, then you lean against the door, you break into a cold sweat, then you stand up, then you open the door, and you start to realize as you go into it, it's not as bad as I made it out to be in my mind. And I'll pause me there because I want to make sure we stay on track.
No, it's good, man. It's good. You're flowing, brother, and I love the insights, man. It's really good. Um, Max, let me ask you this: what are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen in your own life? The biggest shifts that you've seen in yourself? What are some of the biggest, maybe like most tangible results as a result of this work?
One measurable is I was 218 pounds and I'm 175 pounds.
Wow.
Why does that matter? Because I was unhealthy and I don't know the exact correlation between porn and junk food, but there is one. I think that when my mental diet and my food diet are a reflection of each other. And as my mental diet's gotten cleaned up, so has my food game, right? I've been able to shift that relationship with taking care of myself and not. I think there was a lot of vulnerability and carrying the extra weight for me. I'm not saying this is every dude, was about armoring. It was a way of like sort of protecting myself against things. I don't feel the need to do that as much. The other big shift too, bro, is around meditation. Meditation was a kind of a 5 or 10 minute breathing exercise, and it was a dipping the toe in the water. And now, like the stuff we do with the dispenser work is like this is a 30-minute deep dive of transformational shifting of my energy, shifting my breathing, shifting my body, shifting my mindset, moving away from the old me, noticing patterns and being able to see them with objectivity and interrupt them and create something new. So huge shift around meditation, huge shift around what I believe is possible for myself. There's a ton of work also, just having the noble code as a touchstone, getting clear about my values. I didn't have that before. I didn't have anything to refer back to. And also when I would fall down, there was nothing in me that was rehearsing if I stray from the path I vow to return, right? If I end up in the weeds, I'm going to get back up. If I get over here, I'm going to get back over here. Or I take full responsibility for my life and all of my actions. My mindset has shifted, bro. I never thought like that. I was unfortunately really wrapped up in victimization. And even the work that I was doing in the men's communities, it wasn't until I started listening to Jocko's podcast and reading Extreme Ownership, and then heard Guy Ritchie echo the same words on Joe Rogan's podcast, I started paying attention, and I'm like, these men have a clue that I don't understand about this idea of taking responsibility. So when I got in the community, and that's the first freaking principle, I was like, oh, look at this. So you start to uncover things that I had inklings around or I had glimpses of, bro, But as I got in the community, I'm like, well, this becomes a lifestyle. So there's been shifts around my mental attitude about being a victim or feeling sorry for myself, right? Um, Self-pity can take you in constructive directions and it can take you in very destructive directions. And for a long time, that was me at the tip of the tipping point. Self-pity was the tipping point to go down the rabbit hole with porn and feel sorry for myself and pacify myself, sedate myself. That's another thing. Um, Being able to say what I mean, but not be a dick about it. I was always overcompensating before, where I would speak my truth, but I would do it in a way where I was basically bullying people. And it was almost like a self-righteous arrogance that I was walking around with. How the hell that was possible, given the, my own human fallibility, but I was still showing up arrogant, full of myself. When I began to do the work around pornography, compassion started to be something that was a big thing for me, bro, and it still is. The meditation I did this morning was a self-compassion meditation, where we go in and I'm saying to myself that I wish I would be well, I wish I would be happy, I wish I would be at peace. Of course, you know that's pulling out a refuge, recovery. That whole meditation of self-compassion and sitting with a hand on your chest, sending yourself love.
Yeah.
Again, just to mention it, it's not about sex. It's not about sex. It isn't a sexually driven thing. It's really underneath of the porn is these emotional needs. So huge shifts around in my mentality, my mindset, emotionally, how I understand myself, compassion, the meditation that I do, exercise and self-care, how I eat, how I put myself to bed when I'm tired, all of those things, staying away from electronics, just taking certain apps off my phone, bro. It's a boundary. I'm not going to put it on the phone because I know it's a problem. Why? Because it's going to be a cesspool. It's going to be bad news. Every guy in the program has described it differently when they start rolling out the litany of, Instagram and Facebook and things like that. If it's for communication and you access it periodically, it's probably not a bad idea. But if you're stuck in this scroll hell and scrolling through nonsense can very quickly lead to bikinis, can really quickly lead to topless, can really quickly lead to full on porn, where you've gone right into the thing. So boundaries around the electronic devices, boundaries around, whoa, I'm noticing I'm getting pretty beat. Let's just call it. Let's just go to bed.
Yeah.
Let's just turn the lights off. Let's put some music on or something, and just shift. So does that, I'm
Mhm.
trying to be thorough, bro.
Oh,
Does that,
so good, man. It's so good. You're dropping bombs like you always do, Max. Like you always do, brother. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so what would you offer then, Max? I mean, you've offered so much wisdom already. This may be a redundant question, but what would you offer to a brother that's on this path? What sort of guidance or wisdom would you offer him?
First of all, it's a process. It's a slow boil. The behaviors and from a mindset perspective, an emotional perspective, and a somatics perspective in the body, this is a way of being that those of us that are in this program, a part of this community, recognize, go back. For me, I was 9, right? Most guys I hear from, most stories I've heard, whether we're talking about, the boot camp or on a call or even sometimes one-on-one, they were young, they were impressionable, the preteen, young teens, and this thing has been a fixture in their life. So my thing is, this doesn't define you. This is not the totality of who you are. So stick to your guns, fight for yourself, keep showing up. Um, there's some things fundamental that people make light of from 12 step, like, you know keep keep working it. It works if you work it. Keep showing up. but
Right.
but that's actually, so there's some wisdom in that, especially when it comes to this, because pornography is like this. I hope this isn't a horrible analogy, but I'll throw it out there. If you go drink, dude, that's on your breath. If you go smoke a blunt at work, it's in your clothes. And so there's a sense of it, right? So if you've got a particular go-to, and again, not preaching against drinking, not having a problem with smoking herb. I'm saying if you have an addiction to it, if you are hiding in it, if it predominates your life, and if you need it and it is essential for you to function, then you probably want to look at it. And the same thing with pornography, right? And if a guy is on this road and going through this process, understand there are layers, understand that the reason we have a 0-day doc is because you're going to fall. That's what it's there for. We all struggle with it, and we hit a threshold, and something happens, the right set of circumstances, a confluence of things, and we fall down. The point is, on the journey, we get back up again. So there's a level of tenacity that you have to have, and a willingness to keep coming back to the process, and be honest, right? And make the most of the things that when you're notice what's happening when you're vulnerable. Notice what's happening when you feel like you're getting picked off, or notice what's happening when you have this tendency on the interior of you where you want to slide back into, I'm going to linger. Because it never starts with, I'm just going to go home and watch Pornhub. That is not the process. So my thing would be pay attention to what's happening, your mood, your energy. We talk about this from day one. Energy management does not get discussed enough, and in its relationship to porn. If you have an amazing morning where you meditated, you journaled, you read something inspiring and educational that was speaking to you, and you hit up the exercise, and you at least have those 4 things that you did in the morning, and you filled your cup first, you're going into the day with a different mindset. You're not the same guy that is waking up an hour late, let's say, for example, dragging yourself to the breakfast table if you have time, or just having a cup of coffee and then trying to get online or go out the door to get to work. And at your first earliest opportunity, you're like, it's 11:30, time to, check out whatever, because the day didn't start right. So to me, those morning disciplines and bookending the day, being willing to give yourself time at night, wind down, reflect, maybe throw a couple things in the journal, put on some healing music, grab a quick meditation, start the wind down early. The phone doesn't have to be the last thing in your face. Make a decision around it. And I would also say this, and this is for me, this was true, and I don't know how this sits with other guys, because other guys may find they're very structured in their life. Porn is the one area where they don't feel like they've got boundaries or structure. I noticed for me, bro, the more I was willing to embrace the work and the more structure I created, the more visibility I created, the happier I was. Because me hiding involved me being sloppy, creating gray space in what I was saying. I was vague. I wasn't committed. I was wishy-washy. All of that shit was me manipulating. And it was shit. It was absolutely shit. Me manipulating things so that people really never knew what was going on. And I always left wiggle room for unaccounted for time or unaccounted for dollars or things like that. You know what I'm saying? So to me, get clear about what you want, set an intention, bring structure, bring self-care front and center. Front and center. Porn is not self-care. Porn is sedation. Porn is not self-care. Porn is sedation, plain and simple. And a sedated man does not respect himself, and that wreaks havoc in our lives, man. So I would at least say those things that I kind of rattled off there are important to consider.
Significant, brother. Significant. Thank you, brother. Max, as we draw to this conversation to a close here today, I'd love to invite you to share to a brother who's maybe tuning into this conversation. Maybe he's considering embarking upon this journey himself. He's looking at getting help, getting supported, joining the boot camp. What maybe he's on the fence about the conversation, about the decision. What advice or wisdom would you offer him, brother?
Level with yourself. Be honest. If this is ringing any bells, if it resonates at any level, give yourself the permission to explore this with your wallet. Don't just go into it as an exercise of maybe I need this. Invest in yourself. I know every single person has heard some BS e-commerce thing, or they've been on a YouTube video where the guy's like, I promise you're going to be fit. You're going to lose 25 pounds. These are all the testimonials, whatever programs are out there. The thing I want to say about what's different about P2P, first of all, it's a community of like-minded men. It is an absolute community, and there is an open spot for any man that is ready to do this work. You will be received, you will be held, you will find that there is structure and that there is an opportunity for you to do work around this in a way that there are men, including Matt as the leader, who know the territory and have good maps of the territory. Everybody's journey is individual, but this is legit. Like, this is a legitimate place to do work and to change for the better. And also, don't do this half-hearted. If you're going to do it, commit to the journey and jump in and allow yourself to try something new. If you've tried to quit on a full stomach, which a lot of guys have, if you feel like you've tried NoFap, if you feel like you're part of a Reddit community or you're part of a Facebook group and you're just not seeing the results that you want to see, or you just don't feel like that is adequate, it may not be. And you may be looking for something more. And I think that this community is exactly what the doctor ordered. It has been for me, and in a huge way. So my suggestion is be open-minded, be willing to open your wallet, be willing to give up time, be willing to sacrifice. Just to be a little provocative, give some thought as you're thinking about actually addressing this problem to the amount of lost time and dollars you've spent on porn. Do it in 1 year, do it in 36 months over 3 years, and then think about the last 5 to 10 years, depending on how long you've had a habit. Then think about how many times you've paid for a movie in a hotel room, or how many times you put $1 in a stripper's garter, if that's part of your situation. If you start thinking about it like that, it becomes a very easy equation to do, to carve out the time and the money to commit to a process like this and a program and be in a community with other men where you're having to own your willingness or your unwillingness to do your work, your willingness or your unwillingness to show up for yourself. So I would say this is something that you have to take seriously. And I would encourage you to do that because it's an act of love for yourself. It's an act of caring for yourself. It's an act of improving the quality of your life and also having more of you available to give to those around you, because this drains us and it limits us as men.
Powerful, brother. Significant shares. You always bring the wisdom. You always bring the gold, Max. Love your perspective and your insight, brother. And I so appreciate your contribution to the conversation and to our community today, brother. And just honor you and appreciate you and who you are
Thank
and
you,
how you
brother.
show up, man. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, man.
Honored, brother. Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us here today, Max. It's an honor to have you here. Um, I think that's it for today, brother. Anything further you want to add or contribute before we wrap up?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to share and to have the avenue to give back to the guy that's on the fence, or the guy that's, trying to make a decision, or the guy that's discouraged. Maybe he started well and he's frustrated, and this can be a frustrating process.
Yeah.
But I just, appreciate the chance to talk with you, man, and kind of put it out there as a resource. I think that's extremely cool.
Thank you, brother. Thanks so much for joining, brothers. Thanks for those that tuned into the conversation here today, Max. So we appreciate you, and we'll look forward to seeing all you brothers wherever you are in the world. Peace and power. We are noble men. Bye-bye.